To graduate into a six-figure salary, society tells you there's a heavy toll to pay, sacrificing 4 years to a grueling, soul-crushing major. It's the classic ratio of pain to paycheck. The assumption is that financial security scales exactly with how much you suffer academically. We can actually measure this suffering as academic rigor. It is calculated by the sheer volume of mandatory study hours, the repetitive lab work, and inevitable all-nighters demanded every single week. Driven by a very real fear of graduating into debt without job prospects, thousands of anxious students force themselves into degrees that guarantee burnout. But equating maximum academic suffering with guaranteed financial security is a statistical fallacy. Believing that myth traps students in highly inefficient career paths. Here is the real dilemma. You want the financial security, but you'd prefer to keep your mental health and free time intact. If you scroll through social media, you'll see a lot of clickbait promising that you can just pick a lazy degree and coast effortlessly into a top tax bracket. Let's drop the word lazy. What we are actually looking for is a high-yield path. In this context, high yield means maximizing your output, specifically your early career salary, while ruthlessly optimizing the input, which is your academic grind. Navigating this trade-off means ignoring campus rumors and using a strictly mathematical approach to evaluate your degree options. We visualize these trade-offs using a matrix: academic rigor on the x-axis, median salary on the y-axis. Traditional STEM and architecture land firmly in the top right quadrant, the grind zone. High pay, but they extract a massive toll of severe burnout and all-nighters. When you divide the starting salary by the sheer volume of study hours invested over 4 years, the initial hourly return on investment for the student is surprisingly low. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have degrees like art history sitting down in the bottom left quadrant, offering low rigor but significantly lower pay. Neither extreme, maximum burnout on one end or minimum pay on the other, offers an optimal balance for reliable income and a life outside the library. But the data reveals a glaring anomaly. A distinct cluster of majors completely breaks the pain-to-paycheck rule. Up in the top left quadrant, we find finance, economics, IT, and business admin. This is the sleeper zone. Their financial outcome is substantial. They place graduates in the top 50% of starting salaries, matching the grind zone. The academic benefit? A fraction of the friction. You hit those salary tiers with vastly fewer study hours. Strictly looking at the ratio of library hours to starting salary, these majors represent an unusually high-yield investment compared to the traditional hard sciences. There is a hidden catch. A lower academic barrier to entry guarantees a massive increase in job market competition. Because the coursework is less grueling, thousands of people graduate with these degrees every semester. The piece of paper itself is no longer a sufficient differentiator in a stack of resumes. If you treat a sleeper major as a truly lazy path and do nothing outside of your mandatory classes, the math turns against you. That inactive approach guarantees you will graduate with an unremarkable GPA, leaving you at high risk for unemployment or stuck with bottom-tier salaries within your field. Success here requires reallocation, the strict requirement to take the hours you saved by not studying and shift them directly into high-leverage professional activities. To pull ahead of the competition, you have to execute aggressive networking, earn independent certifications, and secure multiple internships before you graduate. Executing those activities requires immense self-discipline. They are entirely self-directed, and you will never see them graded on a syllabus. Sleeper majors do not eliminate work. They simply shift the location of the work from academic study to professional hustle. This split-screen comparison illustrates the daily reality. On the left, a grind major, like architecture, means high in-class effort makes the degree itself your resume. On the right, a sleeper major, like business, requires high out-of-class effort, meaning you have to build the resume yourself. Grind majors essentially outsource your career development to the rigor of the syllabus. Surviving the pain of the curriculum serves as your primary professional credential. Sleeper majors require you to be the architect of your own value. You have to rely heavily on extroversion and soft skills to bridge the gap between a generic degree and a lucrative job offer. Choosing a major requires you to decide which type of hard work you prefer to engage in. This scorecard graphic determines if your personality is built for a sleeper major. First, self-directed motivation. You need internal drive to seek out internships when a professor isn't forcing you. Second, networking tolerance. You must possess a high willingness to build professional relationships and pitch yourself, because those connections get you hired. Third is your need for rigid structure. Business and IT careers rarely offer a defined step-by-step path, so your need for rigid structure must be low. If you map to this optimizer profile, scoring high on motivation and networking, but low in needing structure, then finance, IT, or business administration is your optimal high-yield path. However, if you are a specialist who despises networking and relies entirely on your technical output to speak for you, avoid the sleeper zone completely. Your safest bet is to stick to the hard sciences. Real optimization comes from matching the degree's specific demands with your personal strengths to maximize your financial return.